What if I told you that everything you believed about the beauty of the past is not true? We imagine the Victorian era as a time of elegant ladies in lavish dresses, balls, and strict etiquette. But behind this facade lay a cruel reality, where the pursuit of fashion was not only expensive and difficult, but deadly dangerous. Women of that time were locked in a golden cage of social expectations, where their only value was their beauty and ability to marry well. The ideal image required sacrifices that were not spoken of aloud. It was a silent war that women waged every day against their own nature and common sense. We are accustomed to admiring their fortitude, but we rarely think about the price they paid for it. Behind their pale skin, slim waists, and sparkling eyes lay secrets that would shock modern people. Watch the video to the end to find out how ordinary dress dye or eye drops could cause tragedy and why silence was society's main weapon against women. What if I told you that the greatest danger to Victorian women was not disease but an ideal? The concept of the angel in the house was central to Victorian society and dictated a woman's role. She had to be meek, submissive, pure, and completely devoted to her family and home. Her world was limited to the living room and the nursery, and her main task was to serve as an ornament for her husband. Education, career, personal ambitions. All of this was considered inappropriate and even vulgar for a real lady. A woman was an object, a beautiful thing to be put on display. This ideal also required a certain appearance: fragility, paleness, and delicacy. A healthy glow and strong physique were considered signs of the lower class, the lot of workers and peasants. An aristocrat had to look as if she had never known physical labor and had never been exposed to direct sunlight. It was this social pressure that became the catalyst for the most dangerous fashion trends. Women were forced to go to extreme lengths to conform to the image imposed on them by society. Their fate depended on it, as did their ability to make a profitable marriage, which was the only way to secure their future. They were not just victims of fashion, they were hostages to a system where their value was measured solely by their appearance. Their bodies became a battlefield for social status. Every element of their wardrobe and makeup was a statement about their position in society. This system created a constant feeling of inadequacy and anxiety. Women compared themselves to each other, desperately trying to achieve an unattainable ideal. Fashion magazines of the time only added fuel to the fire by publishing images of unrealistically fragile figures. In essence, fashion became an instrument of control. It dictated to women how they should look, how they should move, and even how they should breathe. Any deviation from the norm was punished by public condemnation and censure. It was an era when appearance was valued far more than inner substance. A woman could be intelligent and talented, but if her waist was not thin enough, all her virtues were devalued. Beauty was not a choice, but an obligation. Thus, dangerous beauty practices were not just a whim. They were a desperate attempt to survive and thrive in a world that left women no other choice. It was the price they paid for the right to be considered perfect. I'm very interested to hear your point of view. Do you think the pressure of Victorian society can be compared to modern beauty standards imposed by social media? Write about it in the comments. Are you ready to learn the truth about the most famous item of Victorian clothing? The corset was not just an item of underwear, but a true symbol of the era. It created the much-desired hourglass silhouette with an unnaturally thin waist and curvy hips and bust. Girls were started in corsets at an early age so that their bodies would be shaped correctly from the outset. It was considered an integral part of a lady's upbringing. Wearing a corset was as mandatory as knowing how to play the piano or speak French. The design of the corset was far from comfortable. It consisted of several layers of thick fabric reinforced with whalebone or steel plates. There was lacing at the back that allowed it to be tightened to the limit, achieving the desired waist circumference. The consequences of such daily compression were disastrous for the female body. Internal organs were displaced from their natural positions. The lungs could not expand fully, leading to shallow breathing and a constant lack of oxygen. This is precisely why Victorian ladies fainted so often. Any excitement or physical exertion against a background of chronic hypoxia could lead to loss of consciousness. However, society did not perceive this as a problem, but as a sign of a refined and sensitive nature. Moreover, the corset weakened the back and abdominal muscles. A woman who wore it for years could no longer do without it. Her own muscular frame atrophied, and the corset became the only support for her spine. Movement in a corset was restricted and difficult. Women could not walk quickly, bend over, or lift anything heavy. This made them physically dependent and helpless, which was entirely in line with the ideal of the fragile angel. Despite the obvious harm, it was impossible to give up the corset. Appearing in public without it was equivalent to going out without a dress. It was a marker of status, decency, and belonging to high society. Thus, the corset was not just an item of clothing, but a tool for shaping not only the body, but also social behavior. It physically restricted women, making them submissive and dependent. It was a veritable gilded cage that women voluntarily put on themselves. What do you think was worse? The physical consequences of wearing a corset or social condemnation for refusing to wear one? But the tight silhouette was only half the story. Are you ready to find out how a simple dress could turn into a fiery trap? What I am about to show you was hidden behind a beautiful picture. If the corset squeezed a woman from the inside, the crinoline created a huge impenetrable barrier around her. This structure of steel hoops fastened with braid allowed for the creation of incredibly voluminous skirts, which were at the height of fashion in the mid-19th century. The crinoline replaced numerous petticoats, which were heavy and hot. In this sense, it was even a step forward, as it allowed the legs to move freely under the dome of the dress. However, this freedom was deceptive and carried with it new, far more serious dangers. The diameter of a crinoline could reach 1.5 to 2 meters. A woman in such a dress took up a huge amount of space, which made her extremely clumsy. She had difficulty passing through doorways, could not sit next to someone on the sofa, and constantly risked knocking over furniture. But the main danger of the crinoline was its extreme flammability. Dresses of that era were made of light fabrics, such as muslin, gauze, or tarlatan. A single spark from the fireplace or a carelessly thrown match was enough to set the entire huge dome ablaze in a matter of seconds. It was almost impossible to escape from the burning structure. The steel frame turned into a fiery cage, and the air currents that circulated freely under the skirt only intensified the flames.
Help me, please!
Women found themselves trapped in the middle of their own dresses.
Someone help her!
Newspapers of the time are full of reports of tragic incidents involving crinolines. Thousands of women suffered burns while at home or at balls. This fashion literally spared no one, from aristocrats to maids. In addition to fire, crinolines posed other threats. A strong gust of wind could lift the light structure, exposing the woman to public view in a less than flattering manner. There were cases when women were blown off piers or cliffs. In addition, the wide hem could easily get caught in the wheels of carriages or in factory machinery. The crinoline, intended to be a symbol of status and femininity, turned out to be a cumbersome and unpredictable device. It isolated women from the outside world, creating a zone of alienation around them. Despite all the dangers, women were in no hurry to give up the crinoline. The fluffy skirt was a symbol of wealth and idleness. It showed that the woman's husband was so wealthy that he could afford to maintain such an impractical and expensive adornment. Thus, the crinoline became yet another example of how fashion dictated life-threatening conditions. It was not a tribute to beauty, but to social conventions. Women paid too high a price for the right to wear a symbol of their status. Are you ready for the shocking truth about beauty secrets? The Victorian ideal of beauty was aristocratic pallor. It symbolized purity, refinement, and belonging to a class that did not have to work outdoors. To achieve this effect, women resorted to extreme measures. One of the most popular and dangerous remedies was arsenic. Yes, the same poison that is lethal in large doses was used in small doses as a beauty product. Arsenic was ingested in the form of special wafers or tablets. It really did make the skin paler by destroying red blood cells. In addition, it gave the face a slight puffiness and a special shine to the eyes, which was considered attractive. The problem was that arsenic is a cumulative poison. It accumulates in the body, slowly poisoning it from within. Once a woman started taking it, she could not stop, as abrupt withdrawal caused terrible side effects. In addition to being ingested, arsenic was also found in many cosmetics. There were lotions, powders, and even soaps containing this poison. They were believed to help get rid of freckles and pigment spots, making the skin tone perfectly even. The consequences of such self-care were catastrophic. Chronic arsenic poisoning caused a whole range of health problems. These included digestive disorders, hair loss, and vision impairment. Over time, the poison affected the nervous system and internal organs. However, Victorian doctors were far from always able to correctly diagnose the cause of the ailments. Poor health was often attributed to female hysteria or congenital weakness. Women were essentially slowly destroying themselves in order to conform to the fashionable image. They knew the risks, but social pressure was stronger than their instinct for self-preservation. A pale face was a ticket to high society, and they were willing to do anything to achieve it. This pursuit of paleness reached absurd levels. Women avoided the sun, wore veils and gloves, and even drank vinegar to look more emaciated. Health was sacrificed for the illusion of aristocracy. How far would you go to conform to modern ideals of beauty? But arsenic was not the only poison in the arsenal of Victorian beauties. In the next chapter, you will learn how another toxic metal was used to create the porcelain skin effect. While arsenic provided pallor from within, another dangerous element, lead, was used to create the perfect skin tone on the outside. Lead-based white lead had been known since ancient times, but its popularity peaked during the Victorian era. This cosmetic, known as Venetian white, promised to create a perfectly smooth, white, porcelain-like finish. It effectively masked any skin imperfections, scars, redness, freckles. A woman who applied a layer of lead white to her face really did look like a doll. However, a slow and destructive process was hidden beneath this mask. Lead is a toxic, heavy metal. When applied regularly to the skin, it is absorbed into the bloodstream and accumulates in the body. The consequences of chronic lead poisoning were terrible and irreversible. The skin suffered first and foremost. Lead dried it out, making it gray and wrinkled. A vicious circle arose. The worse the skin became, the thicker the layer of white lead had to be applied to hide the flaws, exacerbating the problem. Then the poison began to destroy the body from within. It affected the nervous system, causing irritability, insomnia, and even paralysis. The kidneys and digestive system also suffered, leading to constant pain and discomfort. One of the characteristic signs of lead poisoning was tooth decay and inflammation of the gums, which took on a bluish tint. Breath acquired an unpleasant odor, but even these obvious symptoms did not stop women in their pursuit of beauty. Lead white was an expensive luxury, available mainly to aristocrats and wealthy women. Thus, a porcelain face was not only fashionable, but also a sign of high status. It was another way to demonstrate one's superiority. The danger was compounded by the fact that women often slept without washing off their makeup so that they would look perfect for their husbands in the morning. This gave the lead even more time to penetrate the body. They literally wore a poisonous mask on their faces around the clock. The history of lead white is a striking example of how the desire to conform to an ideal led to the ignoring of obvious risks. Women were aware of the harmful effects of lead, but fashion demanded sacrifices. Beauty was an illusion that had to be paid for with one's own health. Are you ready for the shocking truth about products for flawless skin? Another toxic element that was actively used in Victorian cosmetology was mercury. This liquid metal, known for its poisonous properties, was included in many popular creams and ointments. It was used to remove freckles, pigment spots, and treat skin rashes. Mercury preparations did indeed produce rapid, visible results. They whitened the skin and made it smooth. However, this effect was achieved by destroying the upper layers of the epidermis. With prolonged use, mercury, like lead and arsenic, penetrated the skin into the bloodstream. Chronic mercury poisoning led to severe consequences for the entire body. It was a slow and painful process. One of the first to suffer was the brain and nervous system. Women experienced symptoms such as tremors, irritability, memory loss, and depression. In severe cases, this could lead to serious mental disorders. Mercury also destroyed the kidneys and liver, causing chronic failure of these organs. Teeth and gums suffered, and increased salivation was observed. The appearance of women who used such cosmetics for a long time became repulsive over time. Despite this, mercury ointments were advertised as miracle cures capable of giving women perfect skin. Manufacturers kept quiet about the side effects, and women, blinded by their desire to be beautiful, believed the advertising. They did not associate their deteriorating health with the jar of cream on their dressing table. It was not only women who were at risk. Mercury could be passed from mother to child during pregnancy. This led to the birth of children with serious developmental abnormalities. This practice shows how vulnerable women were at that time. They were cut off from reliable medical information and became easy prey for unscrupulous cosmetics manufacturers. Their desire for beauty was exploited in the most ruthless way. Is it any wonder that in a society where a woman's future depended on her appearance, such dangerous products were in high demand? But women did not only poison their skin. In the next chapter, you will learn how they risked their eyesight for the sake of an expressive gaze. In addition to perfect skin, Victorian fashion required women to have a special look. It had to be languid, mysterious, and a little sad. To achieve this effect, a plant with a telling name was used, Belladonna, which translates from Italian as beautiful woman. An extract was made from this poisonous plant and instilled into the eyes. The atropine contained in belladonna caused the pupils to dilate significantly. The eyes became dark, shiny, and appeared larger, which corresponded to the beauty standards of the time. The effect was truly impressive, but it came at a very high price. The first and most obvious side effect was a complete loss of the ability to focus on nearby objects. A woman who used the drops literally could not see what was right under her nose. This made her helpless in everyday life. She could not read, embroider, or do any other work that required sharp vision. This further emphasized her status as a decoration, incapable of practical activity. But that was only the beginning. Regular use of belladonna extract led to light sensitivity, irritation, and inflammation of the eyes. Headaches and rapid heartbeat became constant companions of such fashionistas. With prolonged use, the consequences became even more serious. Atropine increased intraocular pressure. This could trigger the development of glaucoma and ultimately lead to irreversible vision loss. Women literally sacrificed their ability to see the world so that the world could see them as beautiful. This choice vividly illustrates the value system of Victorian society. A temporary aesthetic effect was more important than long-term health. This practice was also surrounded by an aura of mystery and romanticism. Dilated pupils were considered a sign of heightened sensitivity and arousal. Men found this look particularly attractive, without thinking about its true cause. Thus, belladonna drops were yet another tool of self-destruction in the name of fashion. Women willingly plunged themselves into a fog, both literally and figuratively. They gave up a clear view of the world in exchange for admiring glances. Danger lurked for Victorian women not only in cosmetics, but also in their clothing. In the mid-19th century, an incredibly bright and saturated emerald green color came into fashion. It was used everywhere, in dresses, hats, gloves, artificial flowers, and even wallpaper. This beautiful shade was obtained using a dye known as Scheele's green or Paris green. The secret of its brightness lay in its main component, copper acetoarsenite. Simply put, this dye was a compound of arsenic and copper. Dresses dyed with this dye were veritable chemical weapons. When worn, microscopic particles of the toxic dye flaked off in the form of dust. Women inhaled this dust and absorbed it through their skin. Symptoms of poisoning appeared gradually. Fashionistas developed skin irritations, ulcers, nausea, and headaches. but few people associated these ailments with the beautiful green dress in their wardrobe. Those who produced these fabrics and garments were in even greater danger. Factory workers and seamstresses were in contact with the toxic pigment all day long. Their working conditions were appalling, and the health consequences were fatal. Even the artificial flowers used to decorate hairstyles and hats were dangerous. The green leaves of these flowers were also coated with arsenic paint. Toxic dust fell from them directly onto the face and hair, causing poisoning. Moreover, Parisian green was used to dye wallpaper. Entire rooms in wealthy homes were covered with this deadly wallpaper. In humid conditions, the paint began to release the poisonous gas arsenic, slowly poisoning all the inhabitants of the house. Some historians believe that this type of wallpaper may have been the cause of Napoleon Bonaparte's declining health during his exile on St. Helena. Analysis of his hair showed high levels of arsenic. This theory is still a matter of debate. The story of Deadly Green is a vivid example of how the pursuit of fashion affected not only the fashionistas themselves, but also many other people. It was an entire industry built on poison. The price for a beautiful color was exorbitantly high. Victorian fashion standards extended not only to the figure and face, but also to hairstyles. Complex, voluminous styles were in vogue, and often a woman's own hair was not enough to create them. Women had to use hair pieces, curls, and special padding. These structures were very heavy. The weight of such a hairstyle could reach several kilograms. This put a huge strain on the neck muscles and spine, leading to chronic headaches and back pain. A large number of pins and combs were used to secure these complex structures. They dug into the scalp, causing irritation and damage. In addition, thick and rarely washed hairstyles created ideal conditions for the reproduction of various microorganisms.
You look beautiful tonight.
In addition to hairstyles, hats played a huge role in the image. Victorian hats were true works of art, decorated with ribbons, veils, artificial flowers, and feathers. Sometimes even stuffed birds were used for decoration. This fashion led to the mass extermination of many species of exotic birds. Their feathers were worth their weight in gold, and hunters destroyed entire populations for them. Bird protection movements originated precisely as a protest against this barbaric fashion. Although this video focuses mainly on women, it is worth noting that men also fell victim to fashion. The production of felt top hats, which were popular at the time, involved the use of mercury. Hat makers, who constantly inhaled its toxic fumes, suffered from severe neurological disorders. This phenomenon gave rise to the expression "mad as a hatter," which was later popularized by Lewis Carroll. This shows that the fashion industry was ruthless to everyone involved in it. Every stage of creating a fashionable look could carry a hidden threat. Thus, even something as seemingly harmless as a hairstyle or hat could be a source of serious problems in the Victorian era. The pursuit of beauty required not only sacrifice from women, but also extraordinary physical endurance. Their heads were crowned not with crowns, but with heavy and sometimes dangerous structures. Why did all these dangerous and absurd trends flourish? The answer lies not in a lack of knowledge, but in the structure of Victorian society itself. It was a system built on the strict hierarchy, hypocrisy, and the cult of propriety. Women in this system had no voice. Their opinions were not taken into account in politics, economics, or even matters of their own health. Their bodies did not belong to them. They were the property first of their fathers and then of their husbands. Doctors of the time, the vast majority of whom were men, often treated women's complaints with contempt. Ailments caused by corsets or poisoning from cosmetics were attributed to female nature and nervous weakness. Medicine was yet another tool of patriarchal control. Magazines and books on etiquette tirelessly reminded women of their duty to be beautiful. Beauty was presented as the main female virtue. Refusal to follow fashion was seen as a rebellion against the foundations of society. Mothers themselves taught their daughters to tighten their corsets and use dangerous cosmetics. They did not wish them harm. They were simply preparing them for life in the world in which they themselves lived. It was the only way they knew to ensure a decent future for their daughters. The system was closed and self-sustaining. Women competed with each other for the attention of men, using the most dangerous tools in the fashion arsenal. It was a silent war with no winners. Any attempt to change the situation was met with a wall of incomprehension and condemnation. The first suffragettes and women who dared to wear comfortable clothes were ridiculed and considered crazy. Society fiercely defended its foundations, even the most destructive ones. Thus, the main reason why fashion killed was the silent consent of society itself. Everyone knew about the dangers, but preferred to pretend they did not exist. The facade of propriety was more important than the real well-being of women. It was a world where illusion was valued above reality, and suffering was considered the norm. The Victorian era left us not only beautiful dresses and elegant architecture, but also a harsh lesson. A lesson about how social pressure can force people to willingly engage in self-destruction. We looked behind the glittering facade of the Victorian era and saw its dark underside. Behind every fashionable image that we are accustomed to admiring, there was pain, risk, and suppression of personality. It was a beauty that demanded not just sacrifice, but the complete subjugation of women to their role. The history of Victorian fashion is not just a story of strange outfits and dangerous cosmetics. It is a story of social pressure, lack of choice, and the position of women in a world where they were valued only for their appearance. Corsets, arsenic, and crinolines were only symptoms of a deep disease in society itself. What parallels with the modern world do you see in this story? Have we become freer in our choices, or have we simply replaced one cage with another, more modern one? Suggest topics for future videos that you would like to see on our channel in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on new investigations into the mysteries of the past.